today's last lesson on volume is on pyramids, cones, and spheres. So last year in 7th grade, we talked about the volume of pyramids, but cones and spheres were two things we did not discuss. Now, in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about pyramids, then I'm going to talk about cones, and then I'm going to talk about spheres. So what I would do if I were you is in my notebook, I would section my notes off in 3 sections, pyramids, cones, and spheres, so you can easily go back and find exactly where all your practice problems are in your examples for these things. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is we're going to start with pyramids, okay? Pyramids are a 3D figure that have a base, and then the other side, there is a vertex. Now, a vertex is like a point where the faces meet. Let me see if I can get that again, right here. My base is always, the good thing about a pyramid is it's always going to be on its base, and then the vertex is always opposite of the base. Now, the formula for volume of a pyramid looks like this, or an easier way to do it would be the area of the base times the height, all divided by 3. A lot of people would not like to mess with the fraction, and so they would really enjoy having dividing by 3 instead of multiplying by a third. So the formula for a pyramid, and remember the big B is the area of the base, the H is the height of the pyramid, okay, and then dividing that whole thing by 3. So we're going to do an example here, and I'm going to do this one right here beside me. A lot of you are not fond of writing anything on your paper. I'm a person that has to see everything out, and I'm noticing that a lot of you, to get things right, you have to write things out in your paper. Some of you are consistently not doing that because you're just typing in your calculator thinking I'm right, and you're forgetting to divide by 2, divide by 3, multiply, whatever. So it's really important for us to write things on our paper. So I'm going to write out my formula here, and I'm going to use this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the B, and I notice my base is a triangle. So to find the area of my triangle, it's going to be 6 times 8, all divided by 2. Now 6 times 8 divided by 2 is going to be 24. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply by the height. The height of my whole pyramid, that red line in there, will be times 5. All right, so multiplying these two things together is what my big B and my H is. 24 times 5 would be 120. Okay, so I did my B and I did my H, but I did not divide by 3 yet. Dividing by 3 is going to give me 40 centimeters cubed. So there's a lot to this time. It's hard just to put something in your calculator and think you know the answer. I suggest you write it out on your paper so you can see exactly what you need to do and so you don't forget. I'll do another example. If you want to draw them in your notebook, this is how you can draw them. I usually just go like this and make a base, and then I make a dot up here, and then I take all of my sides and I connect it to that vertex. Another way you can draw it is like this. Okay, there's my base, and then there are my, and that's kind of looking at more of like a head-on instead of at an angle. All right, so for this one, I'm going to write B times H divided by 3. And so I'm looking at my base here. My base is a rectangle. So my base is just going to be 10 times 8. Okay, so this is my big B, which would be 80, times my height of it. My height's going to be right in here, times 6. 80 times 6 is 480. Okay, so I did my B and my H, but now I have to divide by 3. And the answer is 160 inches cubed. So I don't care if you use arrows. I don't care what you need to do to get the answer. I just want you to get the right answer. Okay, so you've seen a pyramid that has a rectangular base. You've seen a pyramid that has a triangular base. Remember, for the triangle, you have to make sure the triangle is base on side divided by 2, find your big B, and go on from there. So 2 that you've seen. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a cone. A cone is just like a pyramid, except for the base is a circle. So very simple. I'm going to look at this formula for now, and I'm going to write it out to look like this. I'm not going to use the 1/3. I'm going to do pi times radius times height, all divided by 3. It's the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. This is the same thing except for I have this one broken down into the big B. The big B looks like this. And so this is technically a really, really good formula to use for the volume of a cone. So in your notebook, write volume of a cone and write this formula right here, because this is the one I'm going to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write that out. Pi times radius times height, all divided by 3. So I know exactly what needs to go where. So pi is 3.14 times my radius. If I look over here, my radius is 5 times 5 times the height of that whole thing, meaning how tall, times 7, all divided by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and do my top row in my calculator, 3.14 times 5 times 5 times 7, and I'm going to enter that, and I'm going to divide that by 3, and I have 183, and I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, 0.2 millimeters cubed. I'm going to do one more with you. Okay. Say my diameter is 16. My height is 9. We'll say it's in inches. Okay, so I'm going to start with pi times radius times height, all divided by 3. Right, like I said, writing out the formula. I know some of you don't want to hear that, but this is the easy way to get the answer. So 3.14 times my radius. If this is my diameter, my radius is 8. My height is 9. Divide that whole thing by 3. So I'm going to do my top part first. 3.14 times 8 times 8 times 9 equals, divided by 3 is 602. I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, 0.9 inches cubed. Okay, so we've talked about pyramids. We've talked about cones. And the last thing we're going to discuss is a sphere, basically a 3D circle, a baseball, a softball, a basketball. That's what a sphere is. And some of you are like, how do I draw that? It's super simple how to draw. It's like this. You can make a line in the front like this and a line in the back. If that little dotted line makes it look 3D. Okay, really, really simple. So it's a 3D circle, just like any type of ball that you play any sports with. The formula looks like this: 4/3 pi radius cubed. I'm going to write it a little differently, okay, to make it simple. 4 times pi times radius times radius times radius. See how it's radius cubed here? All divided by 3. It's the same thing as doing this and then multiplying by 4/3. So this is volume of a sphere. So make sure you get that written in your notebook. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, even though I just did this, pi times radius times radius times radius times 4, I got to remember that in front, all divided by 3. I'm going to start inserting what I need to know. So 4 times 3.14 times my radius is 8, so I'm going to do 8 3 times, all divided by 3. So there's a lot of numbers going on here. Now after I put this in my calculator and round to the nearest tenth, I get 2,143.6 inches cubed. And I'm going to give you one more to do. So you have another good example. Oh my goodness, what's happening here? Let's try again. Let's try again. There we go. This is what I wanted to do. Okay, and then I'm going to say my diameter across this thing is 20 inches. I want you to find the volume of this sphere. The first thing you need to do, write out the formula. 4 times pi times radius times radius times radius, all divided by 3. 4 times 3.14. If my diameter is 20, my radius is 10, all divided by 3. And I got 4,186.7 inches cubed. So I hope that when we talked about each one of those things, you wrote down the formula you're going to use for volume, because you're probably going to need this for your homework tomorrow. It's really easy to be able to look back at your notebook to use your notes for most of these. So let me know if you have any questions. We'll definitely go over some of this some more tomorrow so we are all on the same page. And I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in class.